and welcome to the End in Mind podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin, the owner of Meraki Media Management. The End in Mind is a place where we come to share stories, tips, and strategies of many entrepreneurs, creatives, business owners, and just some people that aren't willing to live the traditional lifestyle. We talk about how to live outside of the box today and how to incorporate what really is important in your life to keep that end goal always in mind. Again, if you would like to reach out to me in any type of way, you can find me on Instagram at Meraki_media_management, and I hope to hear from you all soon. Thanks so much and enjoy our show. What is up, party people? Welcome back to the End in Mind podcast. I am your host, Caitlin, and I am so excited for today's episode. I actually just finished up a client call, and we were having such an amazing, wonderful conversation that I wanted to share some of the breakthroughs and thoughts that we were discussing on today's call. So if you guys click this episode, you're probably feeling some sort of scarcity, or you're interested in learning more about masculine energy, right? And what that actually means. One of the things about the online space that isn't my favorite part of being an entrepreneur is sometimes these buzzwords or marketing words that people use in our holistic community can be totally distorted. And they may even be giving a belief or a new name, right, to these buzzwords used for marketing that honestly have attachments to previous beliefs of our coaches or people that are utilizing this type of rhetoric. The reason why I am so passionate about today's topic is because I don't believe that masculine energy is a bad thing at all whatsoever. I actually think that it can be a really amazing thing. But what happens when we talk about masculine and feminine energy in this space is that a lot of people will connect masculine energy to only being an action or taking action. And feminine energy is just that attraction, right? So some of this is right? If some of this makes sense, right? Some of that description is boiled down and it's not given enough information, right, around what real masculine and feminine energy actually are. So if you are a, diehard End in Mind podcast listener, first of all, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to this episode. Even if this is your first episode, I am obsessed with you guys. This community is one of the many reasons why I love doing what I do, but it's probably the biggest reason why I get out of bed in the morning. So I just want to thank you all for being here because this shit just lights me up, let me tell you. If you haven't, figured out by now, I am absolutely a talker, especially to you guys where I feel welcome and safe, right? And I hope that you guys feel that energy coming from me as well because, of course, we can always have different views on this, especially something as talked about and definitely has different interpretations on masculine and feminine energies of today's topics, but also any topic that I may be, speaking on, right? Because we're not all always going to agree on every single thing, which is why we always bring in guests that have different polarized views, and I hope that they're able to add to some of our holistic ideologies of the world and how we approach people. Thank you guys so much. Long story short, I'm obsessed with you. And, if you feel called to and want to give us a shout out anytime soon, I see you. I appreciate every single post that you all tag me in, and it makes my damn day. So, love you guys. So, getting back into masculine, feminine conversations and topics, The thing about masculine energy is that it's frequently confused with a little thing I like to call scarcity. So I had this realization a few months ago when I was really diving headfirst into my healing journey and I describe it as looking at myself like a little naked mole rat, like stripping down all of the beliefs, stripping away all of these excuses, taking my ego out of everything and just looking at myself for who I actually am and was and what roles I have played in the past. And one of those large roles of mine is starting a business based out of scarcity. And in previous episodes, I've described this as starting a business and really just focusing on masculine energy. And the reason why this is a common misconception is because a lot of the times, many humans only take action when they feel scarcity. This is an innate human response, right? This has been programmed in our bodies for years. I actually even just heard a really interesting reel about something upon this conversation around what happens in your body when you're actually fighting with a significant other or fighting with someone in your immediate family. And what this response was actually said, this was a really credible woman. I believe she's a doctor. And she was describing how when you get in a fight with a significant other or family member, this internal response within you is actually the same triggered response that we would get when we were running from a lion back in time to the Stone Ages. So what that means, right, is scarcity. And literally, we don't always take action, right? Unless we feel scarcity, unless we feel like we are needing to run from a lion, right? Whether that be money scarcity, scarcity about our future, right? Scarcity about the unknown. All of these things can affect this. So it doesn't mean that every single time you're taking action that you're operating out of scarcity. However, since I have built a business off of scarcity, I know that most of my, driving factor was actually from that scarcity. Like I would use the scarcity to drive me. And this is an old school way of keeping people driven and keeping people working, right? It's something that's still commonly used in today's society. It's how and why people in sales set quotas. If you worked in network marketing previously, I'm sure you're really resonating with this. A lot of, careers are based off of instilling scarcity within the company so that their employees will thrive, right? Thrive, I'm using air quotes. What does this mean? And how are we all starting to unlearn this as a society? Because masculine energy and scarcity are not the same thing at all whatsoever. Scarcity is actually just us shutting out every single other thing in our minds so that we're either focused or driven by that scarcity to get the damn thing done, right? Which a lot of people years ago, and probably a lot of people today, would even tell you that that's a more productive way of getting things done than not getting anything done at all. But I, like many other times, people are here to debunk this theory because I have lived it. It is not a way to live life. It is not a way to start a business. And I highly discount this thought process. So instead of operating out of scarcity, how can we operate from a place of masculine and feminine energies, continuing to balance themselves out, right? This is a place of flow. This is the actual productive and ideal place that we need to be able to serve our clients productively, drive a business that is sustainable and actually that we want, right? Desirable. And it's also a place that will allow us to have work-life balance, because we're not operating out of scarcity anymore. I see so many entrepreneurs, so many people in everyday life only operating out of scarcity. And it's because society has proven that this needs to be a way for us to be productive. But What if you took every single other thing that's happened in your life, right, that's actually driven you and given you an outcome that worked to your benefit? This could literally be, getting into college, maybe not even going to college, maybe getting your first job, right? I remember when I got my first job at Zach's Hamburgers, like the biggest deal of my life. I felt so established. I felt so wanted. I felt so needed and important, right? This could even down to getting out of bed in the morning, taking a shower. We need to learn how to trust our bodies to tell us what to do again. When we're operating from scarcity, we are looking externally. We are looking for things, right, that are going to continue to drive us into scarcity, because if we come out of scarcity, God forbid, we think that we're going to actually crumble and die, right? Like nothing's going to get done. There's going to be no productivity in our lives if we are not operating from scarcity. This is such a myth, you guys. And the reason why I know this is because the second that I got out of scarcity and started balancing my masculine and feminine energy, my business has been the most productive it has ever been. And I'm not hounding people for sales. I'm not following up with people because I need money. I'm following up with people because I care about them and I love them, right? That's why I show up to this podcast. Same type of feeling, right? It feels different. I'm sure you guys can go back to early on episodes and even hear the tone in my voice, how I'm approaching you guys. It's completely different. And that's just because I've changed, right? I've learned how to build this trust within myself, and I've learned how to balance that masculine, feminine energies and trust that I don't need to take action out of scarcity in order to be productive. I can just take action to take action. Let me say that again. I can just take action to take action. There doesn't need to be any worry driving my actions, my decisions, the things that I'm doing. There doesn't need to be a reason why out of scarcity. My reason can actually be because this worked for me in the past, I'm going to do it again. Because I met someone that was so fantastic that I've worked with for the past 9 months, I'm going to do that again. Isn't that the reason why I started this business anyhow? We get so caught up, which I know if you guys are End in Mind avid listeners, you've heard me say this a million damn times. We get so caught up in what we think is success, right? And that's what drives the scarcity. It's this terrible, terrible pattern. But I just want to make that very distinct difference between scarcity and masculine energy, because your masculine energy actually kicks in a certain time of month for us females. There's a time and period when we're in feminine energy, and there's a time and period when we're in masculine energy. And the more we learn about our bodies, the more we can easier tap into that, right? But for me, it really just comes down to asking myself and allowing my calendar to be fluid with how I'm feeling. A few weeks ago, I actually lost a very dear family friend that I went to high school with, and it was really, really sad. And it was really hard for me to realize that I would need more time than I was expecting, right? We're coming up to the holidays. Everybody else is putting out all of these events and, webinars, and my goal was to have another webinar in December, and I found myself like beating myself up as I'm trying to grieve someone that was pretty important in my life. And then I had this revelation, which I've had a few times throughout my life, just losing my dad at such a young age. Grief comes into our lives when we most need it. It's just like when we get sick. It's the universe, it's our bodies, it's God, whatever you want to call it, right? Intuition speaking to us. And we can either choose to shut it down, ignore, like I have my whole damn life, or I could choose to lean into it and allow myself to feel what I was feeling so that I could take the correct action steps, like going to the viewing, like showing up, you know, for myself and for my family, how they needed me to, instead of operating from this push energy, which is really just so, as you guys know, as empaths, it's so like, it's really off-putting, you know? We can feel that immediately when someone's coming from that energy, but we don't always know when we're coming from that energy. So if you are feeling run down, you guys are getting this episode early January. So if you are feeling run down from the holidays, tired, drained, listen to your body. Stop pushing yourself. Don't sign up for another webinar. Don't sign up for, you know, the next phone call, right? Block your calendar. Give yourself some time to decompress, because that's when we give ourselves the momentum, right, to lean into the masculine energy. We are not designed as human beings, literally a part of this planet, to operate at a high level all the time. That is why our society is so tired, so burnt out, so sick, so sick. It is because of all of this. It's because of hustle culture. It's because of this scarcity that's innately been passed down to us from generation to generation. And the more we lean into allowing the feminine to come in, right? Allowing the slowdown, allowing the reconnection, just like we do in winter. It's literally like the seasons, right? So that we can amp back up into that masculine energy, and maybe we even get a shit ton done that day. Like, I'm not even kidding you guys. There are some moments where now that I've tapped into this energy, I know, okay, towards the end of the month, like next week or so, I'm recording this on December 13th, I will get a surge of energy. Like next week, I'm going to be freaking feeling great, you know? Like I'm going to write my website copy. I'm going to write all my content for the next few weeks. I know that my body's going to feel awesome and I'm going to have that energy. But, you know, last 2 weeks ago when I'm leaning into grieving, and that's supposed to be my sky high moment, right, of my masculine actionable energy, I'm not beating myself up because I'm not getting done the things that I should be getting done at this time of the month. I am such a perfectionist that I really have to watch this. And the reason why I want to share this with you all is because I'm sure that this is how you feel on some level as well. When someone tells us that we need to cycle track, or, you know, you guys have heard these conversations that we've had on the podcast before, even in, you know, last week, it's great tools, right, for us to learn. But we as perfectionists, we take a tool and it's like, oh my God, I'm going to figure out how to be the best with this tool. I'm going to be the very freaking best. Nobody's going to use this tool as much or as well as I have, right? And it almost has this inverted effect. So that's why I want to share with you all this beauty of the masculine and feminine that I've been feeling over these past few weeks, because I don't feel afraid. And when I do feel afraid, I acknowledge that I feel afraid and I give myself that space. If I need to go shopping, if I need to go take a hot bath, if I need to do my nails, maybe brush my hair out for an extra 10 minutes, like go work out, I give myself that, right? Instead of staying in that like scared, afraid, sticky energy. Because once we kind of go to that scarcity, right, it kind of feels like bubble gum, like stuck to the bottom of our foot. And we're like, oh, we're like being like pulled back into that, right? Like that scarcity, that pattern is really familiar, right? Like that's pretty easy to stay in that thought process, but it's not supposed to work like that. It's not supposed to feel like scarcity when you're in your masculine. It's supposed to feel actionable, and it's supposed to feel good and intuitive. It's supposed to be connected to yourself, not operating at this high level of like, what is the next task that I need to take on, and rushing from here and there, right? We've all done that. We're sick of that. That's why you're listening to this podcast. This is probably the biggest advice that I could give anybody right now, especially as our worlds are changing so rapidly and we're kind of living in this dual reality, it feels like, especially if we're unpacking trauma and healing ourselves at the same time. I just want to hold the space for you guys today. Give yourselves and, myself the time to digest these different types of definitions around some of the cultural rhetoric that has been around, over these past few months and last year especially, we can create our own and, correct types of definitions for these words and patterns, right? Because really what comes down to the rhetoric and the masculine and feminine energy is that cycle that I just mentioned. So however you perceive that cycle is how it will resonate for you. So, if none of this is resonating with you, just think about that cycle, the cycle of life, the cycle of seasons, the cycle of us, right? Our bodies physically rejuvenate, I think, around every 7 years. This is a natural thing. And here at the End in Mind, we are always thinking about how to add more peace and more quality to our untraditional lifestyle, which I know is a lot of the reason why you guys are here. And this is a huge personal development mind shift because it also allows you to show up your best at the certain times, when your energy is already spiking. So you're in the flow for much longer periods of time. So I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you have a lovely new year. I love you guys. I will see you very soon for our next solo episode and a few other lovely guest episodes coming up for you guys. This next year is going to be killer for the End in Mind. So if you have anybody that you think should be listening to this, please, do me a solid, send them the episode, send them my Instagram, whatever feels more aligned for you. And, even write us a review if it feels good. So I love you guys. I will talk to you soon. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening to The End in Mind. I would like to remind you all, if you haven't yet reached out to me on Instagram, we are at Meraki_media_management. It will be in our show notes as well. If you would like to reach out to me, we always offer free coaching through Instagram based around our Instagram training and our business Instagram practices. If you need any type of support, please do not hesitate to reach out to me there. And we also offer several different types of consulting and training packages if you're looking for a little bit more in-depth tips. So thank you all for listening in, and of course, I want you all to keep the end in mind as you continue with your day and or work week. Have a great week, and I will see you all next time.